But Jesus' resurrection makes sense out of the nonsense. See, when Jesus rose from the dead, he rose victorious over sin and death, destruction and decay. What do I mean by sin and death, destruction and decay? See, we live lives of planned obsolescence. Say it to yourself, planned obsolescence. Now, planned obsolescence is this. See, when you buy a car, they time it so it breaks down about every 4 or 5 years. When you buy a shirt, it's supposed to fade every 6 months to a year. Why? So you can keep on buying cars and keep on buying shirts. And your life is on a schedule of planned obsolescence. You are going to die. And believe me, when I turned 30, I realized that. I started getting these pains in my knees and stuff. It's like, oh yeah, planned obsolescence. I started needing more sleep and everything. It's like, man, it's 8 o'clock already. Planned obsolescence. We live lives of planned obsolescence. And this destruction and decay, it comes with the trifles of life. Flat tires, flus, colds. And this is the one I really hate. And I'll be glad when we get to heaven and everything's, perfect. Don't you hate when you put the laundry in and you take all the laundry out and you fold clothes and there's always a sock missing? That is an example of a fallen world right there. It's like every time there's always one sock missing. And that's the lighter side of life, but there's even a deeper side. This destruction and decay, this is why we have the dysfunction in our families. This is why sometimes you're just depressed and you don't even know why you're depressed. Why you have these sinful habits and you can't get rid of them no matter how many times you tried. People give you all kinds of formulas and everything. But it's just planned obsolescence. You live in a fallen world, but Jesus' resurrection makes sense out of the nonsense. He takes what's common to us all. Death, destruction, decay, sin, broken relationships. And he takes what's common and he makes it uncommon. Why? Because the resurrection is just sign and evidence that we've entered into a whole new world where the things in life that don't make sense, Jesus makes sense out of them. Jesus makes sense out of the nonsense. I want you to turn to your neighbor and tell him, Jesus makes sense out of the nonsense. See those things that you can't understand, those things that you say, why? Why would God do that? How could a good God do this to me? How come I'm living in this world and I just can't get a break? Jesus rose victorious over it. That's what we're celebrating here today. And see, the sin, the death, the destruction, and decay, it affects our relationships. See, death is separation from God and others. And every time we get into a conflict, every time we get into an argument, every time we get into a fight, we're living in death because God wants us to be connected to each other. That's why we come to church. That's why we gather together to show that we want to celebrate life beyond our ethnicity, beyond our gender, beyond our socioeconomic status, that we can be connected. We can be a relationship because of Jesus and his resurrection. He makes sense out of the nonsense. See, what Jesus did when he rose from the grave is a proleptic act. And you guys are saying, why did you use that $2 million word? I want you to say it with me. Say proleptic. Proleptic means this. When you go to the movies and you're sitting down, you got your popcorn or, I like the nachos myself. I can't get enough of that cheese. I know it sounds sick, but you get there, you get settled, you got your bonbons or whatever. The movie doesn't start right away. what do they show you? They show you previews. They show you trailers. And when you see these previews and trailers, you see a lot of the movie encapsulated in a brief period of time. And so Jesus, because he rose from the grave, he's showing us what's to come. See, when you see that preview in that trailer, you see what's to come. Sometimes they overdo it and you see too much of the movie. But Jesus, when he rose from the grave, he's a preview of what's to come when we believe in what he did on the cross and when he rose from the grave. He rose from the grave and he was victorious over sin and death, and that means we can be victorious over sin and death. He rose from the grave and he inaugurated a new age. See, this age, this life is full of ups and downs. It's full of problems. It's full of heartache and heartbreak. But Jesus says, hey, I'm bringing a new age into this present age. I'm bringing joy into the heartache. I'm bringing peace into the stress. I'm bringing life and liberty into the oppression and the bondage. I'm here to make sense out of the nonsense. And see, Jesus' resurrection shows us that there are no boundaries. The things that are uncommon to us all are the differences that we have. The boundaries, the gender differences. You know, you always, it's like men and women talk just a different language. Those of you who are married know what I'm talking about. But that's a fundamental difference in our humanity. Either you're born a man, you're born a woman. There's differences in our ethnicity. You could be born black, you could be born Korean, you could be born Japanese. It's differences. There's class differences. You could be born rich. You could be born poor. You could be born kind of in the middle. And Jesus says all those things that make you uncommon to me, he's making common in a new heaven and a new earth. See, it doesn't make sense right now, but when we all die, when we get resurrected like Jesus, we're all going to be one. There's going to be people who can't speak English, speaking English. There's going to be people who can't speak Japanese, speaking Japanese. And it says we're all going to be gathered around the throne singing one new song. Now, I done heard some good songs in my life. I done heard some real good songs. Like, Lord, I lift your name on high. Or I like, Al Green, Let's stay together. Some good songs. But I can't wait to get to heaven. And some music that I can't even understand. See, I can't get into Metallica. And I definitely can't get into no country. When we get to heaven, there's going to be a new song that's going to make sense to all of us. It's going to be the song of the redeemed. It's going to be the song of those who have been bought with the blood of the Lamb. It's going to be the song of those who took all the nonsense in life and they made sense out of it. See, Jesus helps us to make sense out of the nonsense.